Tonight, I'm going to continue the incredible true story of Eggbert and Alan. When last we left Eggbert and Alan, they had just created a flying device that allowed them to travel through time, and they had arrived in a future that was ruled over by a force known as the Red Eye. And anyways, they eventually got captured by the police. By themselves. It's sort of a long story, but they were now in prison and being interrogated, but the police weren't able to figure out anything, and they'd been sentenced to life in prison. And as Eggbert sat there in his chair, he began to explain to Alan exactly what had occurred. "You see, Alan, this is what I believe happened. According to a bunch of the guards that I've talked to and a few of the prisoners. When we went back into time, we flew over the town of Littleton, and a photographer snapped a picture of us. Now, the U.S. government got their hands on that picture, and they figured out how to create a flying device, at least somewhat like that, giving them technology years ahead of their time. Anyways, this device in this picture should have allowed the U.S. to win the war with Nazi Germany. But instead of winning the war, it only made World War II continue. It somehow what I think might have happened was that Adolf Hitler mimicked the technology that the U.S. government was putting out. And now, instead of ending World War II, we are in a future where World War II is still going on." And Alan, he said, "Oh, it's just too incredible to believe, Eggbert. Do you really think this is what happened?" And Eggbert, he said, "It's the only explanation that I can come up with. So now we've got to think of some way to get out of here." And Alan, he said, "But how?" "I don't know," said Eggbert. "But if the universe got us into this mess, perhaps the universe will get us out of it. I have to hold fate, Alan." And for a while, all they could do was hold fate. And they, for a while, believed that maybe there was a chance, but as many nights passed, they began to worry that they were doomed. But one night they were sitting there, and suddenly a bunch of red lights began to flash through the prison. And suddenly a guard ran forward. "To arms! To arms!" yelled the man. "The enemy is upon us! Every able-bodied man is given a gun! We're out in war now!" And suddenly the prisoners were being released and were being given guns of their own, and Eggbert and Alan ran forward to the bars, and Eggbert extended his hand towards one of the guards. "Please," said Eggbert, "let us go. We'll help you fight." And the guard said, "Oh no, not you two. You two might be spies, and you'll just join your little Axis army," he said. "No, you're staying in there until high authorities can decide what to do with you." Anyways, the guard ran forward, and Eggbert, he fell down in his cell, realizing that perhaps they didn't have a chance after all, and perhaps this wasn't their chance of escape. But anyways, as he was laying there, he suddenly heard a loud whistling noise, and almost instinctively he grabbed hold of Alan and he pushed him to the bars. And he said, "Cover your face!" And then, all at once, a missile landed right by the wall of their jail cell and exploded, and the wall broke apart, and Eggbert and Alan looked out, and they saw that they were free, and they both ran out of the jail cell, and all around them there was fighting going on. And men were filing past them with guns, and Eggbert led Alan. "Come on," he said, "we gotta get back to the time machine. We've gotta fix this." Anyways, Eggbert began to lead him down the alleyways, and it seemed like the smoke was filling their mouths, and everywhere they looked there was smoke. And as Eggbert he looked into the great clouds of smoke, he suddenly saw a man with a long beard run past them. "Judgment is upon us!" yelled the man. "The 4 horsemen are coming! The 4 horsemen!" And the men ran past him, and Eggbert, he said, "Come on." And suddenly a general appeared before them. "You two," he said. You are Axis or Allies side?" And Eggbert, he said, "We're the Allies." And the man looked at them. "All right, give them a gun. We don't have time." Suddenly Eggbert and Alan were handed 2 guns, and Eggbert and Alan realized they were going to be forced to walk with the soldiers. And they had a feeling that this army, even by the looks in this soldier's eyes, were marching to their deaths, and Eggbert and Alan with them. And as they walked forward, suddenly planes began to fly through the sky, and machine gun fire went off, and the general yelled, "Fire! Fire!" and they began to fire their guns, and all around there was fire and smoke and gunfire. And Eggbert looked, and he saw the general pass by him, and blood was dripping down his face. "We're in hell," he said, and he looked over at Eggbert. "Something's happened. God has made a mistake or something, or some devil has caused this," he said. "There's some devil who has caused this world. Some devil has made this place. We are in hell now because of whatever it was that did this to us." And the man, he ran past, and Eggbert stared with wide eyes of terror, and he grabbed hold of Alan. "Down this alleyway, come on!" And Eggbert led him, and Alan, he said, "Eggbert, I've been shot." And Eggbert looked over, and indeed, Alan had dripping from his side. "It's all right, Alan," he said. "Come on, we're going to make it to the device." And anyways, they began to walk through the desert, and Eggbert bandaged up Alan's wound, but Eggbert didn't seem to be doing better, strangely enough. And indeed, his skin had turned pale white, and his eyes were all misty, and Eggbert led him to the device. "All right, come on." He dragged him up the stairs. "All right, we're just going to mimic exactly what happened before." Eggbert, he grabbed hold of the controls. "What if it doesn't work, Eggbert?" said Alan. "What if we can't go back?" "We have to go back," he said. "The universe wouldn't have left us here. There must be a way out." Anyways, Eggbert began to fly, and he did everything that they'd done before. He flew at the exact speed, and he sat there trying to think of something else he could do, and then he saw the clouds in the sky, and he said, "That's it." And he flew forward, and suddenly they felt a great bump, and Eggbert saw the sun rise in front of them, and they found that they were in a completely different world from the one they were before. And Eggbert, he dropped down onto the desert. "All right, here's the plan, Alan," he said. "I'm going to send up a radio signal to our flying device, and I can only hope that'll scare them off." And anyways, Eggbert, he began to wait for a second, and suddenly a flying device appeared in the sky, identical to the one they had. And Eggbert, he sent up the radio signal, and it seemed that the flying device stopped in midair. And then suddenly it turned around and flew back in the sky, and then it disappeared. And Eggbert, he fell down with relief. "It's all right, Alan," he said, and he grabbed hold of him and he hugged him. "It's all right. I think everything's going to be okay now." And Alan, he said, "Eggbert, I don't think I'm going to make it." Eggbert said, "No, you can't give up yet. We're going to get out of this. I refuse to allow us to be things of the past," said Eggbert. "We're going to go to a better place, some place where we'll be welcomed." And Eggbert, he grabbed hold of his device, and the device began to fly up, of the controls, and the device began to fly up into the air. And Eggbert, he said, "It's going to be all right, Eggbert. It's going to be all right." And they flew up into the clouds and disappeared from this very reality. Anyways, we will now go to the Eggbert and Alan that fled from the radio signal. They were sitting in a diner and eating lunch, and Eggbert said, "Well, the experiment was a success. The government is going to fund more money for our next experiment," said Eggbert. "Well, we've done a good job." Alan, he said, "Yes, but it's strange, Eggbert. What do you think happened? I was looking at the information, the device, and it seemed that for a brief amount of time, the clock went from 1 o'clock to 11 o'clock. And Eggbert, he said, "Oh, I don't know. It's probably some electrical interference or something." Eggbert, Alan, he seemed to be thinking. "Yes, but what about that radio signal? How do you explain that? And that bump?" And Eggbert, he said, "Well, I'm sure it's fine. I've come to the conclusion, Alan, that everything in this universe has a logical and a simple explanation to it, if we only just look for it. There is nothing in this world that can't be explained. That's the wonderful thing about our universe." Alan, he said, "Well, I suppose so. But I had a funny thought in my mind that maybe we traveled back in time or something." Eggbert, he said, "I think you've been watching too many science fiction films." And they both laughed at this, but as Alan lifted up his newspaper, he let out a gasp. "Eggbert, you might want to see this." Eggbert, he walked forward, and he looked at Alan's newspaper, and he saw a picture of their device, only it was all wrong, because it said it had flown a couple of weeks before they had even tested the machine. And Eggbert, he looked at the newspaper picture, and Alan looked at him. "My goodness," he said. And Alan, he said, "Well, what do you think it is?" Eggbert, he said, I hope they're all right. I hope there's still hope for them. And Alan, he said, Eggbert, what are you talking about? I don't know what happened, said Eggbert. I don't know how this could have occurred, Alan, and I don't think we ever will know. But I have this strange feeling, Alan, this very strange feeling that something big has happened in this universe. Something very, very big. And indeed, something very big has happened. But for now, I'm going to be returning this file to its proper place. And that is all for tonight. As always, sweet dreams and good night.